Good evening and welcome once again to Rossi's Brosis Sports Talk with Casey and JC. I'm your host, Ken Youth Connell, and my co-host is.
John JC Campbell, live and direct from Kingston, Jamaica.
So
Yes, Ken.
for so for tonight's show, we're going to be focusing entirely on what's trending in the world of sports. We have a list of stuff that we're going to be covering. We're going to be covering news about Kobe Bryant death. We're going to be covering the Tokyo Olympics. We're going to be covering news about Luton Shelton death. We're going to be covering um, news concerning the Carifta Games, news concerning football in Europe, Barcelona and PSG. We're going to be discussing news concerning Johan Blake. He's voicing disappointment with lack of urgency being placed on sports resumption in Jamaica. And we're going to be talking about the big man himself. He was among the top speakers who were lined up for the Saudi FII, which is the Future Investment Initiative in Saudi Arabia. So those are some of the areas that we're going to be looking at. John, you want to start us off with um, Luton
Well,
Shelton,
well, well,
or
well
start off with Kobe
but
Bryant?
yeah, I was so shocked to learn of Luton Sheldon's death, and he died after suffering from was diagnosed with ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Yeah, it was really a shocker. But I remember some time ago, maybe a year or so ago, the Jamaica Football Federation actually reached out and offered him help, offered him help in terms of treating his disease and just to let him get by and being a national player. But yeah, it was really a it was really a shocker to learn of his death, man. That is really something. Um, but if you recall, though, that he wasn't the first one who would have died of this ALS pathology. You recall some time ago that Barrington Cobra Gaynor,
Mhm.
he was actually a reggae boy. Remember? I don't know if you remember him. Yeah, he actually died in 2010 from the same disease, ALS. Yes, you know that's Barrington Gaynor, reggae boy.
Yeah, it was very shocking to me also, and even more so considering the fact that, as far as I'm concerned, I see him as one of the most prolific strikers coming out of Jamaica. And
Indeed.
I'm a person who love my statistic, and when I look at, Luton's performance, then there is no way I can't look at him in that form. This guy was not only a great striker, but he was also a great winger too. But look at the success rate he had. I think he was capped for Jamaica 75 times and he scored 35 goals.
Oh,
And
yes, interesting.
yeah, and then not only that, but in his debut for Jamaica, I think he scored either 4 or 5 goals, and more than one occasion he have had hat trick representing Jamaica. And a lot of listeners might not know that he played for several clubs outside of Jamaica also, and was very successful. But there is no way we could do our program today without mentioning him, although we know that maybe a lot of our listeners are familiar with the fact. But, this is a professional footballer that we have to honor, and we have to, at least say that we are sharing the loss along with his spouse. And we just want to tell Bobbitt Shelton that we are with her and with his siblings. You know, we in Sports Talk, we would be remiss if we did not mention him, because he represented so eloquently, and then also was so productive, in every aspect of his game. Just remember the fact that this guy is only 6 feet tall, and he was also very good in the air, very good in the air, and we have to mention how good he was with free kicks. Probably the best that we have ever
Okay.
seen in Jamaica.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we have lost two reggae boys from because of the same amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And for those among us who are not familiar with ALS, as I said, it's amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and it's a neurological disorder. It's a neurological disease. It's a disease that attacks the motor, what they call the motor neurons of the neurological system. The motor neurons are those that control movement. And once those are affected, then you gradually lose, you gradually get weaker, you lose function in your limbs, and in Luton's case, you end up with almost a paralysis of your respiratory muscles. So therefore, breathing and so on becomes that much more difficult. It's one of those diseases that science still has no answer for in terms of how to treat it and so on. Basically, all you do is treating symptoms and making the person's life more comfortable. But it's a very progressive disorder. It gets worse as the time rolls on. Hopefully one day science will find a cure, as we're trying to find a cure now for COVID-19. But hopefully science will find a cure for that.
Absolutely.
But let's say rest in peace, Luton Sheldon.
Yes, rest in peace. And then again, we want to say our condolences to Babette Shelton and the siblings and his siblings. So we're grieving his loss, but we know that we'll be praying for them, and hopefully they'll gain strength also. But we want to extend that to them.
Yeah.
Okay. So another thing that we want to talk about is Kobe Bryant. So last Tuesday, January 26th, marked 1 year since Kobe Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter, along with 6 others, perished in a helicopter crash. And millions, of course, around the world remember this time last year. And it's a year later, and they still have not determined a probable cause for this crash. But as we came up to Tuesday, it was still a sad moment for me, because I know how much this guy have contributed to the game of basketball in so many ways, and have contributed also to the LA community as a whole. So we just want to say that we hope that just for Kobe's sake, that the investigation will continue, so that they will maybe find at least a probable cause, so this can be corrected, so that nobody has perished this way.
Right, absolutely. He was a remarkable player, and people always compare him with, whether or not he's among the best player or the best player. Or, I'm not into that kind of talk, but he's always been compared to LeBron. He's been compared to, a host of other great players. But would you say he's certainly among the top 5 of all-time best players? What would you say from your end?
Yeah, again, I go by, when you're looking at in that era, when you're trying to select that, I have my set of criteria that I use, which might be different from other folks' criteria. I would definitely put Kobe Bryant in the top 5, in the top 5 players, all-time best player. Yeah, I would put him in the top 5, for many reasons. When you have a player that not only played the sport with dignity and pride, and with all the effort, the possible effort that you could play with, but then he is somebody that the game learn a lot from. When you're trying to build a product, you want somebody who can represent you well, and definitely Kobe Bryant is one of those persons who represented the NBA very well. He said in a lot of statements that he made, when people asked him, when compare him to Michael Jordan, he said that he got a lot of what he learned in the sport from Michael Jordan. And then he passed it on, and he does it in such a way that the younger guys who are now playing basketball, there's something for them to learn. If you go back and watch his videos, the way he conducts himself in the game, his level of professionalism, his skill, and everything, there is a lot to learn from it that will make him play a better player.
I think that's what I love about him. I love his work ethics. Just his dedication to when you see him on the court, you see a person who loves the game, who respects the game, and want to give it his all. Oh, by the way, we're inviting listeners to submit their comments and their questions by way of the WhatsApp group, or certainly through the YouTube chat facility. All right, so share your views and as we go along on anything that you wish, and as we go along. Kobe, 1 year has passed. How time flies.
Yes, sir.
Amazing. How
Yeah.
time flies. If you had mentioned that it was a year, I would still be thinking it's just recently, but that's a year. Thanks for reminding us,
Yeah, so
a good player.
Yeah, very good, very much so, and does a lot for, he did a lot for the sport of basketball, and hopefully a lot of what he did is going to rub off on current players that we have. So yeah, I just want to reiterate what John said to make sure that you guys send in your questions, because we want our audience participation today based on the topics that we're going to be covering. So John, next I want to talk about the fact that the Tokyo Olympics is on.
You think so? As far
Yes.
as you think. Well, I mean, the officials there are convinced that the games will go on. But regrettably, that is not in their hands at all, if you ask me, because at the rate of how things are going, anything can happen. Anything can happen, because we look at Jamaica here, we're not in Jamaica, but the regional issues. We're Carifta, the Carifta Games. Those have been rescheduled to a later date this year. It should have been in April, but now it has been postponed until July for the same reasons again. And for the listeners, Carifta is a regional game athletic event. It should be held in Bermuda. It's held in different territories across the region. This year, it should be held in Bermuda. Should have been in April, but they have now pushed it to July. So at Tokyo Olympics, let us see how that goes. But I think people are training, the athletes are training. I don't know what from your end. How do you see things?
Yeah, it's actually I agree with you, but the Tokyo body, they have established or they have scheduled a date which should be from July the 23rd to August the 8th. And here in America, when the news broke earlier on this week, pretty much all Olympians are excited, and you could see the excitement. Everybody was beaming with excitement because they want the game to go on. But of course, you and I know, and pretty much everybody knows that COVID is the determining factor right now. So they can set up a schedule and they can do all that is necessary. But then we're hopeful that the game will go on. But we know that it's still not a done deal because of COVID, because COVID is dictating a lot of things nowadays. And so, but yeah, I think it's mainly based on, the over $1 billion that would be lost if the game doesn't go on. So the Japanese is actually paying attention to the loss that would incur if the game doesn't go on. But they have to do so in a safe environment. And according to a report coming from Japan, from Tokyo, they have over several times spoke with the International Olympic Association, committee, my fault, International Olympic Committee. They have spoke with them several times, and they're putting a number of protocols in place to ensure that the game is safe. So I'm looking forward to it. It's something that we all want to see take place. But then again, we all know that we have to just keep our fingers crossed. But for the athletes, the Olympians and prospective Olympians, everybody is voicing their support and excitement. because you know the game was scheduled for last year, and so they're hoping that it's really going to take place this year. So everybody is sharpening up and trying to get themselves together, hoping that it's going to be.
But you know, you can just realize the, should I say, the negative impact that this pandemic has been having on world sport. You know, the Olympics to be postponed, worst case scenario, postponed again. I think that would actually just destroy the career, should I say,
Mm-hmm.
of hundreds of athletes. You know, there are some athletes who, if you don't get to perform this time round, then in another 4 years or so, they're done. You know, I mean, we probably will not hear of them again. Some of these, you know, the more senior athletes, you know, and along with that is, you know, the whole thing of their earning potential. The money's, so you spoke about $1 billion invested from the point of view of the Tokyo officials, but in terms of a more global, the more global economic loss as a result of sport not being played, you're talking about billions, you know, in terms of world trade and, you know, billions of dollars. As I said before, our Carifta Games already has been rescheduled, and I don't know if you know of what they call the Milo Western Relays. This is a meet that is usually held in Montego Bay, at the stadium in Montego Bay. It was cancelled. You know, that has been cancelled because of logistical issues and because of the COVID-19 issues as well. And this is the first time since its inception in 1978 that the Milo relays are being cancelled, and it's all because of that, right? And this is a big setback, I think, for the athletes, particularly in the western half of the island, because this was the premier event down that side, and that is being cancelled as we speak. So I don't know. Let us see how the Tokyo Olympics goes. It would be great to have the Olympics, but I don't know if it's in their hands at all.
Yeah,
You know?
that's you know, they're looking at it from the, you know, from the economic standpoint, but we know that COVID is the determining factor. You know, they're set to lose that they say billions of dollars, but then COVID is going to be definitely the determining factor. So let's keep our fingers crossed, not just for because of entertainment purposes, but also because of the interest of the Olympians and prospective Olympians, because we know how much that means to them. And definitely some of these guys, it's their final Olympics, you know, as we'll learn later on, definitely. And there were some good news as it relates to or Christopher Taylor. He performed at a meet in Arkansas, and he came in second. He ran a 45.73 second indoors in the 400 meters. When you look at the fact that these Jamaican athletes are not familiar with the indoor surface and the way they perform, in 45.73 is actually not a bad time for somebody who is running in a competition for the first time indoors. You know, it's not like a 400-meter track outdoor where you're going around the track one time. You have steep curves and, you know, elevated tracks and so forth. So it's something that they need to get used to. And I saw the race, and if you look at the race, you can see that he was very tentative, not being able to fully assess,
Yeah.
you know, the pace of the 400 meter. Like he would, you know, he ran a totally different race from how he normally runs his 400 meters. So as time go along, I'm sure that these Jamaican athletes who are just performing for the first time on indoor tracks, I'm certain that they're going to do much better. And then we're going to be seeing even much better time.
So that Christopher Taylor is that same one from Calabar, no? That's a Calabar fellow.
Yes,
Christopher
Kobe.
Taylor.
Yeah, from Calabar.
and
Yeah.
he did remarkably well here as a 400 meter, if I'm not mistaken, 400 meter
Yes, well,
runner, right?
actually he ran all the sprints. You know, he's a very what
Oh,
we call
right.
an athlete. We call him an athlete in track and field, meaning that you know he can run the 100 meter, he can run the 200 meter, and he run the 400 meter also, which is supposed to be his pet event. But he has shown potential that he can run a 100-meter race very well also. So you know the argument was when he decided to come to America, the argument was should he have came to America or should he have stayed in Jamaica. But then my take on that was it depends on what his specialty is going to be. You know, I believe that um, the program in Jamaica, I haven't seen a whole lot of top class 400-meter runner coming out of Jamaica. So I'm not certain why he made the decision to come and train in Florida. But I know for sure that this guy is an athlete. So don't be surprised if he end up running the 100-meter and 200-meter just like Usain Bolt. You know, I see the same kind of you know, it's kind of biomechanics in him as a runner. I see about the same thing like a young Usain Bolt. So with more strength and power, who knows what he might turn out to do? You know what I mean? Because a lot of guys who have the 400 meter their primary event, sometimes they want to change because you know not many people want to go through that rigid training for 400 meters, just like what Usain Bolt was. You know, so let's hope and see. Let's hope and see what it's going to become of him. But you know, right now he can do any of those events and do very well. You know, the
I
100, 200, or 400 doesn't matter.
I am always very I was always very skeptical of athletes getting scholarships and leaving the shores of Jamaica to go train wherever. I was always very skeptical of that because I've seen where we have lost a lot of our athletes, talented athletes who would have gone there and for some strange reason come to nothing. Um, at one point, it was about their academic prowess, their academic ability, where they were taken out of the school system here, taken to America, and they couldn't keep up their academics as well as their training. So something, you know, so they fell by the wayside. I remember one very good 400-meter runner, his name was Daniel England, again from Calabar. Was one of the sweetest
Okay,
like
it seems like we're
from
having
Sportz.
some
That's
technical. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So I was saying, you know, I'm very skeptical about going or athletes going to America to train. Whilst I appreciate the help that they get sometimes I have to wonder if it's actually the best thing for them. But then I guess they have to be the ones who decide, you know. And this is why Bolt and Asaf and Shelly and the rest of the crew, that group, they decided to train here for the most part, you know, because they wanted to prove something. And that was like our turning point in our training systems and our athletic training systems, where we prove the world or show that athletes and we can train them to be world beaters. But you're right. You mentioned that this was primarily in the 100 meters and the 200-meter sprints, but not so much the 400 and the 1500-meter type races, or worse, even the field events and so forth, you know. But it's something that's always been debated. Should they go or should they stay? You know,
I
and
agree with you. I agree with you,
yeah,
and that's why again, our sports talk is so important because what we are trying to do is to establish um, various areas in sports that's going to help to build sport as an enterprise especially in Jamaica. The program is for everybody all around the world, but in Jamaica where there is room for that, what needs to be done, I think, is some form of assessment as to the areas that the athlete is going to be performing, and do a good measurement of whether or not is it Jamaica that is more suitable, or is it United States of America? And that's what I said to a lot of folks who came to me with a Christopher Taylor situation. And I said, we have to remember that even in Jamaica, his primary event is the 400 meters. Now, if you ask me what do I think, I'll tell you it's very hard to decide at that age whether or not he should focus on the 400 meter, or he should do the 100 meter and 200 meter, because like I said, his performance on all three levels is exceptional. So he could decide to go in whichever area. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy could run an 800 meter, to be honest with you. He's such an athlete. However, I think that when you look at it from the sprint, 100 meter, the shortest sprint, 100 meter, 200 meter, I have to agree with you that I would want to lean towards Jamaica coaches, to name a few, Francis or Mills Camp, because they have proven that they're some of the world greatest sprint coaches. So then, of course, when you take all other things into consideration, like the food that we eat, the environment that we live in, all of those things have to do with your development as an athlete. So I wouldn't want to give up, the climate that we're in, also the food that we eat, and the people that we socialize with and so forth. Everything when you're talking about track and field and sport, the mental, the intimate, association with other people, and all those things matter. So then, they need specialists in those areas in Jamaica to determine what is best for the athlete. Right now, I think I'm not for sure, but I think most of the decision is up to the coaches and parents. So I think they need a professional advice in a lot of cases to ensure that they make the right decision to get the benefit, the best, what is best for the athlete.
But can I tell you that for the most part, the decision as to whether an athlete takes up an opportunity overseas or remains here, that decision is largely based on resources and opportunities. A lot of these athletes will go to America because of the perceived opportunities, and and let's face it, a lot of them are Jamaicans here. A lot of them are not necessarily from the wealthiest of backgrounds, and so they need help, and funding your way through university and training here in Jamaica is not the easiest thing if you don't have a sponsor, or if you don't have monies readily available. So when somebody comes to you and says, hey, we'll give you a 4-year scholarship, we'll pay your tuition, and you get a stipend. All you need to do is come and train and represent. It's hard to turn that down. At the end of the day, you're gonna get a degree, you'll earn your degree in whatever. It's difficult to turn that down. So again, it's based on resources and the perceived opportunities. That's being presented.
Yeah, there is definitely more opportunity here. I share in some of the opportunity that year because I got a partial scholarship myself. And if I didn't get that scholarship, I would not be able to finance my way through school. So of course it helps a lot. The thing about that though is that I've been into that recruiting room before. These guys are like trained professionals. And I know that's one of the things that we're up against right now. We have these recruiters that come, they attend boys and girls championship every year, and or development meets also, and they're scouting our athletes, and when they make a presentation, trust me, it's like a good politician. They're gonna they're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
they're
oh
gonna
yeah,
get them
certainly,
to come to America, and that's something that
certainly, certainly.
they're gonna research and see what are we using to keep them in Jamaica, and they're gonna counteract. Like I said, I've been to these recruiting before. These guys are very good. They'll show you something that you cannot refuse. So what our athletes need to start doing is, before they are approached by these recruiters, they need to make a list of what means the most to them as an athlete. And because, like I said before, these guys make the presentation so attractive that it's hard to say no. But if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do
like I
that,
said, yeah, absolutely,
if
absolutely,
you do it ahead of
absolutely.
time, then you have something to go by. You don't go by what they're presenting to you. Go by what you're looking for. So that's why they should have a pre-plan as to what they're expecting, and don't just look at what is presented to them. And that's why they need professionals in sports in Jamaica to deal with these things. Somebody who's acting on their behalf, and prepare for these recruiters, because if you're going to wait until they come to make the presentation, trust me, you're going to have Texas coming in. You're going to have Arkansas coming in. You're going to have Baylor coming in. And each one of them is going to make presentation to you that is so good. And if you do decide to come to America in your sport, then another thing you want to do is about the same thing. All three schools that I just named is going to give you a good presentation. So you should have something pre-prepared as to what you're looking for whichever school you decide to go to. It was
Yeah.
surprising to me a couple of days ago. I was reading about Akira Nugent, from Excelsior High School. We mentioned her last week. And there was something at the back of my mind telling me, I think Akira chose Baylor because Baylor wears the same color like they were at Excelsior. And strange enough, when she was interviewed, she mentioned that. That was the second thing that she mentioned. That because people were saying, why go to Baylor when you're a high hurdler,
Yeah.
right? And Baylor is not known to produce real good high hurdlers, so why go to Baylor? And that was the second thing that she mentioned. But so far so good. She's doing very well so far. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
hope and wish that everything is going to be what she thinks it's going to be.
But yeah, great. But speaking of that and athletics and the world of athletics, I must say I am impressed, thoroughly impressed with the way the trend being set by some of our professional athletes in terms of their entrepreneurial spirit and their drive to get into business and to establish something for themselves after their athletic career would have ended. And I speak specifically this time now of Blake, Mr. Olympian Blake,
Mm-hmm.
and he just recently opened his wellness and rehabilitation center here in Kingston. You know, and again, it's a display of, should I say, good use of resources by professional athletes and following it in the footsteps of, well, we could start with Mr. Bolt. And we spoke about who Freighter was it last week. And
Mm-hmm.
Chris Gale, who has, he had established a business here in Kingston as well. And even before that, Courtney Walsh, renowned cricketer, had established a business enterprise as well. And I think Shelley and Fraser has also done. So that's a good sign that people are not just wasting their money on fancy cars and jet planes and fancy clothes and so on, but they are investing in enterprise, and that they can actually employ people in so doing. So I want to lift my hat off to Mr. Blake, man, and he's recently opened his wellness and rehabilitation center. Good use of his resources
Yes,
and
it's
his
called
contacts.
yeah, it's called YB Wellness Center, and it's
Yeah,
located on Old
YB
Hope
as in
Road.
Johan Blake.
Yes, and it's located on Old Hope Road. It
Yeah,
actually opened on Monday,
yes,
January
yes.
25th was the date it was scheduled to open. So I know it's up and running right now. Yeah, but yeah, the fact that you touch on the business aspect of sports, I just want to go a little bit further into it, and later on we're going to incorporate what's happening in Usain Bolt's world, but I'm just going to keep it at the business side of it right now. So that's another of the reasons why we have this program, because we want people to start looking at sports as not just investment in yourself for improvement in your lifestyle, healthy in a healthy lifestyle, but look at it from as look at sports as an industry, and that's what these guys started doing.
But
They're looking at sports as an
exactly,
industry. you know
exactly.
in Jamaica, for instance, and even here in America, there are so many people who depend on, and they're depending on the government to find job for everybody. That's impossible. The government is not going to find job for everybody. What we need, especially in Jamaica, we need to focus more on entrepreneurship. You know, we need to have people like Blake, for example, who found something that he has done for over a number of years as career. His career is definitely in track and field, and it takes it to another level, whereby now he now establishes a health and wellness center. You know, so from that you can see what's happening right here. There's something that he has a passion for, and he turned it into a business. You know what's going to happen right here? It's going to create employment for some people in Jamaica. So when you get into sport, it's not just a matter of playing sport. It's a matter of being able to see something that you like in the area of sport and do some research as to whether or not you're going to find people who have passion for the same thing, and go out there and market it. When you do that, what you're going to be doing, like I said, you're going to be creating a business for yourself, and you're going to be creating employment for other people. And that's exactly what the athletes that you name, that's what they're doing. And it's been done here in America the same way, with several athletes have done that, whereby a lot of them, tend to go into sports and wellness the same way, sport and wellness. And we definitely need that in Jamaica. I was talking to a friend today, and I was saying to the friend that, one of the things that we're lacking in Jamaica is facilities, open facilities to the public, for the public to go and have a good time, parks and so forth. And the government, why they're not paying attention to this? They don't realize the amount of money that is used up in healthcare that could have been used elsewhere, just because people are not practicing a healthy lifestyle. So all of these things matter. It matters because now, um, some years ago, the diabetes among kids used to be called juvenile diabetes. It's so widespread now that it's not called juvenile diabetes anymore, because the same diabetes that they're seeing in adults, they're seeing it in kids. So the whole thing about sports is more than just running up and down and just say playing sport. It's about you know health and wellness, and it's also about what we just spoke about. It's also about business. It's an industry.
And I'm glad you mentioned the idea of the concept of sport being an industry, while in the same breath you mentioned about the economic potential of sport. Because I want to throw it out as a kind of challenge to Bruce's, actually, that I'm here thinking and seeing that the organization Bruce's, if they were to set up, for instance, a training facility addresses that offers gym facility, training facility. That in itself could be an income generating um, system. That in itself can help to generate funds and generate funds for the welfare again of the school. So can you just imagine we have a nice health and wellness facility, training facility, sport facility down there where we can open to the public and say, why, between certain hours, the public can come and use our facility for a cost, for a fee. So these are some of the things, man, that we need to be looking at as we go along, But again, hats off to Mr. Blake and the rest of the sports people who have used their earned cash and their capital to establish enterprise and to establish businesses and so on. So I want to say that's great,
John, I just want to add this. When you look at the benefits that's coming from all of what we're talking about, how sports has become a business. When you think about it, we're seeing here whereby Jamaica and other countries all over the world, but we're talking specifically about Jamaica right now. Now it's going through extremely difficult time because our main focus in Jamaica is on tourism. But sports of itself as an industry is so multifaceted. If you look right now, even though COVID has destroy so many different economies around the world, but yet we have Jamaican athletes who are just coming out of high school and they're signing contracts. They're signing huge contracts with leading sports companies such as Adidas, Puma, and Nike. So that goes to show that we have to stop looking at sports as, okay, I'm in high school and I'm going to go play football, or I'm in high school and I'm going to go do track and field. And after that, we don't take it beyond the classroom, or we don't take it beyond the playing field. We have to be critical thinkers, and we have to go through a level of strategic planning and use sport as just use it, like I said before, as a means of earning income, in several different areas. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that even though sports, when it comes to spectators, have suffered a great deal as a result of COVID, but yet sports go on. Sports is still going on. Basketball is still being played. Football is still being played. The Super Bowl is getting ready to be held next week. And while the owners of these various sports were not able to collect gate receipts, they are still getting huge amounts of money from endorsements. You see what I'm saying? So this is one industry that, though it is affected by COVID, it still goes on, and there's still a huge earning possibility when it comes to sport. So maybe us at Jamaica, the Jamaican government needs to stop hanging their hats on tourism alone and try to find a way to make sport a vital part of our industry.
Yeah, well, in all fairness to them, there has been a lot of talk about the value and the place of sport as a driver of the economy. We're now beginning to see that much more. I don't think we are fully there yet, but I think, in all fairness, I think the discussions have begun. They're talking about these things more so now. But mind you, years ago, the issue of sports tourism, for instance, which again consumes a large part of world trade, sports tourism, in other words, just the money that's generated from sports as a result of people going from place to place, going to Olympics, going to World Cup, visiting that for this, visiting that. the amount of money generated because of that activity alone amounted to billions and billions of dollars. So I think the awareness is there in terms of the earning potential of sport. And what we lack in Jamaica, I think, again, is an issue of priority, how we establish priorities and what we think our priorities ought to be. And I'm glad you mentioned about tourism. If anything, the COVID-19 thing has taught us, it has taught us not to put all our eggs in one basket. Because should tourism crash, you know what that means for the Jamaican economy. We in fact, we actually are feeling a little bit of a pressure because of the downfall, or should I say the downturn in tourism. And so we're so desperate to keep it going as best as we can. Sometimes, if you ask me, even at risk to ourselves, because
Yes.
we talk about COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it's at. It's in England and the United States. That's where it's at, really. That's where it's at. So it's an interesting thing. But as you
Yeah.
mentioned, the issue of COVID-19 and the impact that it has on sport and so on. I am hearing that, and you can back me up on this one, that FC Barcelona is on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yes. There is a lot going on at Barcelona right now, a whole lot, and they are in the news. Maybe they're in the news more than anybody else um, right now in Europe. And I think that one of the biggest issue that they're having a lot of internal problem, and as a result of that, then they are they're supposed to, as a matter of fact, they're supposed to have an election coming up, to select a new president. And if the person who is the front runner is somebody who was at Barcelona before. I don't know if you remember Juan Laporta. He was there from 2003 up until 2010.
Whoa.
And that was during the glory day of Lionel Messi. And of course, when Neymar was there in Barcelona also. And he was in the news recently, and he actually touched on some of what you're talking about. Not so much in depth, but because the main thing right now is it seems like they're getting ready to lose Messi. You know, and of course, last week we spoke about it, and we said that the front runner um, was Manchester City, but right now it seems as if PSG is taking over. And what he was concerned about, what about Laporta was concerned about, was the fact that he felt like Paris Saint-Germain was in their public pursuit of Lionel Messi. He felt like he was very disrespectful to Barcelona. And so it make huge headline because he is calling on FIFA and the European League to intervene. But what I can't understand, and I'm hoping that we have members of our audience who are going to take part in this, because I can't understand. Messi is going to be 33, and he's going to be out of his contract at the end of the season. So since January 1, he is free to negotiate a pre-contract agreement with any club that he wants to negotiate with.
Oh.
So I can't understand how that is considered to be disrespectful. And then Messi had outlined certain expectation of Barcelona. He's asking Barcelona to at least bring in 4 top-class players, and it doesn't seem like Barcelona is going to be able to do that. It doesn't seem like they're going to be able to do that. So, like I said right now, I said that last week, and I'm going to say it again. I see Messi ending up at PSG because Neymar have publicly stated that he's longing to play with Messi again. And also considering the fact that I was reading in the news that um, Sergio Ramos from what team is he playing with again? I know the name of the team and it just slipped me all of a sudden. But anyway, Sergio is planning on coming to going to PSG also. As a matter of fact, um, he was he's from Real Madrid. Yeah, he plays for Real Madrid. How could I forget that? I don't know if you remember the defender Sergio Ramos, and he have been offered a 3-year deal worth 15 million euro per season, according to an ESPN report. You know, um, the transfer window is open, and of course, is the speculation is heating up. And so Barcelona is pretty much being slighted in almost everything. So considering what is going on at Barcelona and also what is happening at PSG, I see no reason to believe that Messi is not heading to PSG.
Well, put it this way, if Barcelona, the report is that Barcelona has lost or continues to lose up to $170 million in revenue. They have been unable to pay their players. In fact, the report is that they haven't been paid for January. So that to me is almost like a crisis. It's a crisis situation. No, mind you, COVID-19 is to blame for a lot of this, but I gather, as you said earlier, that they also have some internal managerial problems as well. And as you spoke, I was thinking that how can a sports organization like, for instance, like Barcelona, Manchester United, and these top clubs, how could they stay afloat if you don't have spectators going to your event? Because a huge part of the money that you make, isn't it from spectator spending monies in the stadium and buying tickets and so on? I guess I'm mentioning that to say that this is a real crisis situation, not much for Barcelona, but if this thing persists, it's going to be a crisis situation for many clubs,
Very much so, and then you got to remember too, John, that the revenue was, I would think most of the revenue comes from endorsement, come from advertisement, and also from gate receipt. But remember, one part of what people forget is the huge sum of money that's made from parking at these venues. Remember, you got to pay for parking also. You know what I mean? So huge sum of money coming from that area also. So definitely it's going to be a big blow to a lot of clubs. So while we have our audience, did we get any question from our audience yet? Any questions?
Not a question, but somebody actually asked about, because you had mentioned about the Super Bowl, Super Bowl coming up, and somebody's asking here, what's your pick for the Super Bowl? Can Tom Brady win again? This is coming from Mr. Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell, yes, sir. Joseph, excellent question. Actually, I have to reveal that. So, one of my teams made it to the Super Bowl and one didn't. While I'm not a Green Bay fan at all. I went to school in Wisconsin, but I hate Green Bay because I'm from Chicago, and so I'm with the Chicago Bears. But yeah, Joseph, my answer to that question is I have to give the edge to Tampa Bay. Here's the reason why.
Okay.
This guy, for some reason, has destiny is always in favor of Tom Brady. This is a person who have been to the Super Bowl 10 times.
Ooh,
10 times. The person who is second to him has only been to the Super Bowl 5 times. Okay. I think he won. I'm not going to guess how many times he won it because I don't want to make a mistake. But he had been to. I think he wanted. Well, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure I want to say it, but I'm going to leave it alone because I'm not
Right.
quite
Okay.
sure.
Okay. Fair
But
enough.
when you think about the fact that, again, here's how destiny is riding on the side of Tom Brady. This is the first team to ever host the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl is their home field,
Okay.
right? So when I look at all of these things, again, I'm a statistic person. I look at all of these things. I have to put everything together and said, I can't see how he's going to lose the Super Bowl. I can't see how he's going to lose it. And the the bookmakers, I think they have him as a 2-point favorite or something like that to win the Super Bowl. So I'm not going by them because I'm actually not a gambler. But when I look at all the things that are out there, I actually pay attention to every single thing that happened in the game. I don't watch sport for entertainment. I'm watching sport to see what's happening in the game. And what I've seen so far, I can't see how he's going to lose that Super Bowl. I can't. I can't see any way how he's going to lose that Super Bowl because the defense is playing at a very high level, right? The defense is playing at a very high level. The offense, I have never seen Tom Brady play this well. So Joseph, to summarize, I have to go with Tampa Bay.
Okay. Well, let us hear what Joseph has to say about that. But it's gonna be interesting, eh? It's gonna be very interesting. Gonna be very interesting. Right.
Any,
But I know the time is running on us, but I have to mention again the issue of West Indies cricket. I got to, you know why I think the cricket thing is cricket, unlike any other sport in the region, has some serious historical connections and implications. And regardless of how we try, when the cricket is not going well, we have to talk about it, because if you check the history of cricket and from whence it comes and what it was, and what it meant back then until now, we have to talk about it. And so they have lost the West Indies team. They have lost the one-day internationals to I don't want to say lowly Bangladesh, but they have lost it to Bangladesh, and that is unheard of, if you ask me. But more alarmingly, or more crucially, is the talk nowadays, and this is coming from top people now, that within another 10 years, the West Indies cricket team will be disbanded. In other words, there will be no West Indies cricket team in another few years, let's say another 8 to 10 years, because we would have lost team because of the consistent and persistent poor showing over the past 15 to 20 years or so. They're now saying that will diminish the interest of particularly younger players coming up. So they don't want to play for a losing side. Remember, they didn't grow up. For 20 years, we have been losing or been, not being at our best. And you have a kid now who is 18, 17, 18, 19. They have never seen or experienced a West Indies team at its best. They've always been seen West Indies being beaten by Australia, beaten by England, beaten by South Africa, beaten by Pakistan, beaten by India. So they don't have the inclination to play for West Indies. So the experts are saying that within another 10 years, we will not have a West Indies cricket team again. What we'll have instead is that individuals now will go play for their nation. So you're going to have a Barbados national team, a Jamaica national team now, an Antigua national team, a St. Kitts and Nevis national team. And then the best guy will come forward and go play with ICC tournaments. That to me is, boy, I don't know. That to me is kind of scary, you know.
That's lack of, that's to me right there, it's lack of strategic planning. You know what I said last week, when we spoke about cricket, my recommendation was for them to start up a academy
But
in
they have that.
well, I'm saying, well, something need to be done because apparently the game is not being taught very well at these academies. So then that's what they need to revamp then. But for you to do something like that, we're taking two steps backward as far as I'm concerned in the sport. You know, I do agree with them that something need to be fixed. But right now we're not fixing anything. We are breaking stuff. You know what I mean? And so that's something that they need to. That's what I that's what concerns me a lot when it comes to sports in Jamaica, is there is not a whole lot of critical thinking and strategic planning that's been done. It's just that one person take the baton from the next one, pass it on to the next one, and then it's just a matter of who execute the best. You know, but there is nothing new that's being added to whatever we have in Jamaica as it relates to sports.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
why so
everything
though? Why so? Why
just
so?
like I'm saying, to me, it's laziness. You have to allow your brain, you have to allow your brain to think. You know, it's look at what I'm talking about. Let's take JFF for example. What's the difference between when JFF was run by the former president who passed? What's the difference between what JFF is now? I don't see any difference. We have the same coach making the same mistakes and everything. So what needs to be done? We need to appoint people to these boards, people who are willing to go out there and assess the entire situation, not just sit in the office, but come up with ways to continuously improve the sport, right? You know, I don't see where that is implemented. I see where, like I said before, the baton is being passed on from one person to the other, and it's just a matter of who execute well running the same race. What we need to start seeing, we need to start seeing some different races with the same baton.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But right now, we're not seeing different races. We're seeing the same old race whereby the baton is handed off to one person, handed off to the next person, and it's the same old thing. And that's the same thing that's happening to West Indies cricket. Look at where Australia is. Look at where India is. They have put a lot of technology into the
Look at
sport.
where Bangladesh is.
Yeah, they have put a lot of technology into the sport. We haven't done that because we're too lazy to sit down and
I
come up
know,
with strategic plans to
yeah,
do these things.
okay. I hear you. I hear you. And the need for strategic planning. But I don't know if it can be just be shifted off as being lazy.
I
Because
mean,
mind you though,
mind wise. I'm talking about mind wise. Mind wise.
yeah, okay,
Right,
gotcha. All right, that's
right.
clear. That's a bit clearer. Because remember, about maybe 10 years ago, 7 to 10 years ago, they established a CARICOM prime ministerial subcommittee on cricket. So important it was that they had to bring the prime ministers together to discuss strategies and to just ways and means of improving West Indies cricket. In fact, Prime Minister Patterson sat on that subcommittee, and he himself, along with others, drafted a paper on how they thought West Indies cricket should be managed. With clear points in terms of what ought to be done. No, some of it has some of it they have followed some of the recommendations, but other recommendations they have totally ignored it, and perhaps that's what they need to do: revisit some of the recommendations and West Indies cricket.
Definitely. And this and
Key part. Sorry, let
I'm
me just make
sorry.
the point that a key part of that, the recommendations, had to do with going at the grassroots level and teaching fundamentals of cricket in the schools.
Yes.
In
Yes.
the schools, right?
Yes.
Now that, mind you, that in itself will take again, money. Let me not say money, let me say resources. Resources covers a wider area. Money, not just money, but expertise and the experts and properly trained coaches. I say properly trained coaches who can impart the knowledge and experience to the youngsters. This is what Australia has done, or they continue to do. So when you take a 14-year-old out of Australia, he or she has already acquired substantial skills in the game, you know. So therefore, by the time they are 16, 17, 18, they could call them professionals already, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
We can't keep up with that, man.
See, that's what I'm saying, John. And we're gonna cut off on this and go on to something about Usain Bolt. But here is what I'm saying. The same thing that you're saying right here, the academy. And another thing that I see is lacking is active supervision on what is being taking place with the cricket. There is no continuity when it comes to active supervision. So you establish academy, but then you just leave it in the air. There has to be active supervision whereby there is somebody making sure that whatever the plan that was formulated, the plan is put in place, and the plan is being used according to how it was set up. I don't see that and that's why you mentioned Australia. That's the reason why Australia cricket is so good. And you can, if you look into even another sport, if you look into football, that's the reason why German football is so solid, because they have the academy and they have this continuous performance improvement, and they have this active supervision, and they have the strategic planning and critical thinking that's taking place all the while. That's what we're lacking in cricket in Jamaica. It's happening in track and field. Mind you, it's happening in track and field. It's not happening in cricket.
Right.
It's not happening in football either.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right about football because
You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're lacking. We need to copy some of what's being done when it comes to the plan, the strategic plans that are taking place in athletics. We need to transfer some of them over to cricket and football. And trust me, you will see an improvement. Yeah. Okay, so this is something that we have to talk about, John, as we talk about the world of sports. And I'm going to read it. It says, Jamaica 8-time Olympic gold medalist Usain Bolt was one of the star speakers lined up that took place in a major Saudi investment and innovators conference. It's called FII, which stands for Future Investment Initiative. And Bolt was one of 150 big names set up to participate in this event that is a yearly event in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
He was joined by the Saudi Minister of Sports, Prince Abdul Aziz bin Turki El Faisal. Wow. I hope I did that well. And also Kenyan Cabinet Secretary of Sports, Culture and Heritage, Dr. Ami Mohammed, and Chairman of Formula, which is Alejandro Aji. All right, pure big names. So, you know, this again show you the importance that the Saudi government is looking at sports and see how important sport is, that they went ahead and invite Usain Bolt, you know, to come and speak. The theme of this this year's Future Investment Initiative is the neo-renaissance. Okay. Right? The neo-renaissance, big time investment. They're looking into sport and they're getting ready to put a lot of investment in sports to drive the future of sports as an industry. Yeah. Right? Because the Saudi government see how much can be made from sport. And guess what? Our own Usain Bolt have proven to be such an entrepreneur that he's one of the top speakers that was selected. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I hope he speaks well. It's an amazing achievement for any sports person still. That's amazing. The reach and impact that Bolt has had on global sport is unprecedented, unprecedented. I
100%.
don't know. Sometimes we're here in Jamaica and we just don't realize. And this has been our history. When Bob Marley was tearing up Europe and all those places, we didn't realize the value of this man. We didn't realize until the others say, hey, this is a great artist. And we say, is he? Oh, well, he's Jamaican. Let me hug him, you know? And it's like bold. I don't know if we fully realize the impact that he has had on the global sporting arena. And worse yet, I don't know if we are fully utilized to our own benefit the impact that he has had to our own benefit here in Jamaica. I don't know if we have marketed and done as much in terms of wringing everything that we can from what Usain Bolt has been and continues to be in terms of his impact. I don't know if we have done that. And I don't know, I try to search my head as to say why we haven't done it. And it's I don't know, maybe it's what you said, laziness.
I want our listeners, in the meantime, John, can you check and see if you have any more questions? But I want our listeners to realize that this is not an ordinary conference that he was invited to. You know, even the president of the International Automobile Federation was there. You know, it's a huge conference. And like I said before, the main, when we talk about neo-renaissance, you know what that is talking about. You know, it's that strategic and critical thinking about bringing about sport as global sport as an investment, you know, a huge investment, and to make sports an industry. And like we said, look at that. Usain Bolt is there, one of the key speakers at that conference. You know, so I don't know how I haven't seen it in any of the Jamaican papers yet. Maybe it's there and I haven't seen it. But the conference was held. It was yesterday, and today is the last day. So of course I'm going to go back and try to see if there's any video on Usain Bolt when he made his presentation, because I'm sure he has a lot to share. Because since this guy retired from track and field, you know, he has been burning up the investment field.
Yeah.
You know,
and can I say that a lot of what is happening with Bolt and investments and so on, it is really that others are eager to use his name and image, you know.
Yes, very much
And,
so.
and that the business, what do you call it, the track, the restaurant and club facility that is here in Jamaica was the first one. The
Right,
Usain Bolt tracks and record.
right.
You know, the business people actually just use his image. Need I
Yeah,
say anymore? Usain Bolt tracks and record. Okay, let's go to Usain Bolt tracks and record. It's you know, and it's image. It's all about image and marketing, and that he has image. He has the marketing potential, and they know that. They know that if they invite a Usain Bolt to speak at their conference, it's as we call it today, sell off. It's sell off. You know?
exactly. And I think when you talk about the Saudi and United Arab Emirates, they are looking, because you know, especially based on COVID, these guys are smart. Just what we mentioned earlier on. They're looking at it and say, you know, sports is an era whereby if tourism is not bringing in funds, we can bring in funds from sports. So let's have this huge conference. Let's invite all of these top class guys, minister of sports from African country, minister of sports from all over the world, you know, and also some people like I said, this guy who is the president of the International Automobile Federation, you know, and bring them in and let's formulate some plans that can help to make the sport bigger than what it is. Make it an industry, and that's what they're doing. So then, we think about what you're saying about is to Jamaica, and most of us don't give him the credit that he's supposed to receive. I'm telling you the truth, because we forgot that track and field was not even in the limelight, in this such a big glow, light that is glowing, until Usain Bolt went into track and field. The whole thing, the whole arena changed completely. And
Yeah,
track and field became,
I agree
you
that he took it up a notch. Well, not a notch, several notches in terms of the appeal
definitely.
of it. As did Tiger Woods for golf.
Exactly.
you know, as,
Exactly.
and what's his name for basketball? Or friend, what's his name for basketball? Not LeBron James, the other one.
Michael
Nike,
Jordan.
Nike. What's his name? The Chicago Bulls man.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, right? MJ. What he has done for basketball, you know. So yeah, these.
The thing is, though, the thing with the basketball is that there is some level of continuity at about the same level. Now, what is happening in track and field is both light is still shining, but when both light goes out, I'm wondering what's going to happen because
No, I think it has been lit, and I think it will continue for a while. I
uh-huh.
think the enthusiasm is there. What will dampen the light a little is what's happening now as we speak. There's this lull in sport activities, in athletic performances and meets and events because of the pandemic. So that, to me, it will do a lot of damage. So we're going to need another revival of a bolt again, and they could bolt me to bring it back up because we were on a roll. Athletics was on a sport on a roll, if you ask me. But certainly athletics was on a roll, was on a steep climb in terms of its prominence and its appeal and so on. But this COVID thing, I don't know, boy, it has created a huge dent, in everything. But we are resilient people, and we'll bounce back again. And we have more bolts down here, don't feel no way. Might be at Rusty's as well too. So watch it. You're coming back big.
Yeah, Jamaica track and field is going to be there for a while.
We have talent. We have talent. A lot of talent here, man.
Definitely.
We have a lot
If you
of
have any comment or any question
no,
that we need to
nothing.
address?
No. Um,
Okay, so we're drawing close to the end of another of our program, and we want to thank those people who have been subscribing to the Rossi's YouTube channel.
right.
We are asking you to continue to subscribe, like, and share our program. And we are also inviting your comments, as many comments as possible. In closing, John, I want to admonish our listeners to um, make sure that we look at sports in the broader sense. Let's look at sports as not only as investment in self, because despite the inherent risk of the various sports that we play, the benefit totally outweighs whatever the risks are. So let's make sure that we see sports as an investment itself. And also, let's try to make sports a business investment. It can be income, a huge income generator. And so we should start focusing on various areas of sports as we look into as we look into entrepreneurship. So let's just not take what is given to us, but let's use what God give us also. Let's start doing some critical thinking and go out and talk to people about something that you have a passion for, and try and see how many people share the same passion, and go out and sell some products in sport. When we say product, we're not talking about just goods. We're talking about services also. So that's what I want to leave with our viewers. And is there anything you want to close with, John?
Well, that I'm looking forward to. seeing the Brosis Health and Facility Center down there in Rossies, where we can open business to the public, you know, fully equipped and everything and all that ready to go. You know, yeah. But yeah, it's all good. I think, you know, it was a worthwhile little program we had just now. All the various issues that are trending in the world of sport. Again, we invite you to subscribe and share your views and your questions and so on. And until next week, we'll say bon voyage, eh?
Good night, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week, same time.
Take
Bye.
care.